So have you ever sat down and thought to yourself, I mean, obviously you're in the fragrance community, so have you thought to yourself, I really hope that this brand comes out with a fragrance like this next year? There was a fragrance brand, Chanel, that there was a rumor earlier this year that one of their reps said that there was going to be a release sometime this fall. And a lot of people were getting hyped about it. They said that it wasn't going to be in any of the other previous Chanel lines for men. So that wiped out the Chanel Elixir, all that kind of stuff. And now it's fall, and we're the end of fall, and we still haven't heard anything. There's rumors that it's now been pushed to 2024. So I decided, with the help of a few of my moderators who gave me the idea, I'm going to start doing kind of like a making shit up Mondays, where I'm going to start telling you guys my ideal fragrance releases by specific brands every single Monday. So today we're going to be talking about Chanel. We're going to be talking about Prada another day, Spice Bomb, or Victor and Rolf. Going through, we're going to talk about today what my ideal next release would be from the Chanel line for men. So without further ado, let's get it. What's good, my great smelling dudes? Welcome back to Making Shit Up Mondays, where we're going to be talking about a fragrance brand and what my ideal new release would be from them coming out either this year, next year, whatever it might be. Their next release, what my ideal release from that house would be, starting with today, Chanel. Before we get into it, make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, if you're interested to. Hit the bell if you want my notifications as soon as possible. And then also comment below and let me know what your ideal Chanel release would be. I already know a lot of you guys are going to say Bleu De Chanel Elixir. I don't need that. I do not need Bleu De Chanel Elixir. While I wouldn't be upset if they came out with it, we already have the fresh one with the Bleu De Chanel original. We already have the super versatile one, which is a blend of the first one and the last one, and that's the Eau de Parfum. And then we have the date night one, which is the Parfum. We don't really need another one because if we got an Elixir, it's just going to last longer, which two of the three already do that. They already last like almost a full day, so you don't technically need an Elixir. Also, if there was one other fragrance, so I mean, we have the Eau de Parfum from, this is the Bleu de Chanel line, and then the only other one that I could think that you might be able to come out with is a longer lasting version of Edition Blanche. But honestly, to me, that would be amazing. But to most people, that would be boring because it's just another one of what they already have. But a longer lasting version of this, please come out with it. That would be great. With that said, that's not what we're talking about today. My ideal new line for Chanel. So I don't like the Platinum Egoist and stuff like that, so I'm throwing that out the window. I've never liked that fragrance. It's like a vintagey herbaceous fragrance. I've never liked it. So just an FYI, that will not be mentioned in this video outside of just right then. Anyway, so my ideal fragrance release in 2023, 2024, whatever it might be, would be a release of a brand new line, starting with an EDT. And I already know, because I've said this for years, on what I would want a new Chanel line to be called. Well, they already named, and this might be boring, but I don't care. A lot of times this is what fragrance houses do, so I'm trying to be practical. They already came out with a line called Bleu De Chanel, which BLEU is just French for the color blue. So I think that they should come out, and I think the bottles would look sick, very similar to that of like the Guerlain Habit Rouge Prive, which is like a dark red. I'll put it up there, obviously. I would call it Rouge de Chanel, or Chanel Rouge Eau de Toilette. Rouge meaning in French red. And so yes, that might be slightly boring, but I think that would be really cool. And it would be, since the other ones, the blue ones, are more of your fresh and versatile, I would think that these would be cooler if they were more of your warm and your cooler weather style fragrances, which I already know that they probably won't do that, but they're the only line that really doesn't have that in their designer base. So I would say this would be a good idea for that. Maybe have like a versatile cool weather fragrance that could also be worn in the spring and summer. That would be really nice. That would be my ideal fragrance from a Chanel. So like a Chanel Rouge Eau de Toilette. What would the notes be in it though? That would be a little bit harder. I mean, if you're thinking Chanel Rouge red, I would think that there would be something in the fragrance kind of like how Polo Red has their cranberry note. I don't know if that would be interesting to put something cranberry, but that would also be copying off other fragrance people, or other fragrance houses. So I doubt it. It's not like Bleu De Chanel has anything like necessarily blue in the fragrance outside of the fact that it's a blue fragrance. Or they could do like green, like a green line. But for the most part, I'm hoping for a Chanel Rouge. And what would be in it? I think that it would be a warm and spicy fragrance that would be centered around the notes of like cinnamon, amberwood. They like to use their amberwood in the new one. Maybe a little bit of like tonka bean. But then add in some ginger to give it a little bit of a fresh effervescence. And then maybe you could put a little bit of a vintagey, almost soapy-like vibe in the opening by adding a bit of like a citrus. And I'm not sure what else would come in there. To like that ginger might provide that soapy quality as well, depending on what type of ginger they used. And then I would like to see a little bit of like a vetiver, again, amber woods in the dry down. And then maybe hop off the Bleu De Chanel and take a little bit of that incense into the fragrance. So kind of like how YSL myself did that, kind of taking the YSL Nuit de Lhomme and mixing it together with YSL Y Le Parfum. I'm thinking you take pieces from like the Ego East, maybe a little bit of the herbaceous quality and a little bit of that Bleu De Chanel, that incense, maybe the ginger and stuff like that, and throw it into this, but then warm it up. Make it, put a little bit of cinnamon in it, put a little bit of spice, maybe some saffron, that sweet and spiciness, or a little bit of tobacco. I think that would be a beautiful, I don't see Chanel doing it. Again, this is my ideal release, would be something that is kind of like a fresh version of something like Wanted by Night, where you get a little bit of like a fruity quality to it, a little bit of an effervescent quality, but then it has that spicy tone on the outside, a little bit of a warmer woods, but just like a slightly freshened up version of it so that you could have it for all season. Because Chanel's not going to release a 2-season fragrance, I can already tell you that. They always release things that you can wear all year round. So I don't necessarily see them doing a warm fragrance that is to the point where it's warmer than Bleu De Chanel Parfum. But I can always pray. And so my ideal, I do think the idea of having a Rouge de Chanel would be a really good one. Maybe they would have some pink pepper in it to add that red, or maybe a little bit of red apple or something like that would be ideal. But I would love to see them do something like that. Something that is outside the box that Chanel doesn't do very often, but still maintains like a warm and spicy versatility. But again, yeah, my main thing would just to be sticking around like cinnamon, tobacco, maybe a little bit of saffron, pink pepper, some ginger, have a little citrus over top of it. Maybe put like a best of both worlds, taking that Ego East line, having a little bit of herbaceousness, mix it together with the ginger, a little bit of citrus that you get from Bleu De Chanel and some incense, and then add in its own thing to start a brand new line. I think that would be a beautiful line, and so hopefully that's something that they do plan on doing in the future. Not the Rouge de Chanel necessarily, but at least releasing a brand new line. I just really hope it's not the Bleu De Chanel Elixir. Again, I know a lot of you guys are probably going to still want that, and again, I don't care if it comes out. It's just I feel like that would be too expensive, first off, and it would be a money waster because it's just going to smell like Bleu De Chanel, just denser. That's what my opinion is, unless, and I don't see Chanel doing an Elixir because they're not the type of company that just clings on to trends, at least from what I've seen, so you never know. With that said, let me know what your ideal Chanel fragrance would be. Mine's more of a just hope and prayer. They're not going to come out with a fall and winter fragrance, but Chanel Rouge sounds great to me. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Even if it's not that, bring me out a longer lasting version of Edition Blanche. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.